Welcome to you. As you can see by the clock here, we've got just under 2 hours of the final qualification session ahead of the Le Mans 24 hours. The 80th anniversary of the great event. The 4 car out there, Ollie Jarvis has got it in his hands right now. Currently 5th quickest. That's because Anthony Davidson and the Toyota number 8 car are sitting in 4th place at the moment. We're waiting to see if it is Anthony that takes it out of the pits. Just waiting for everything to catch up with us at the moment. Glad you are with us. My name's Carlton Kirby. Alongside me, Liz Halliday and Jeremy Shaw has rejoined us here for this, which is, yes, it's time running out for Toyota to do what they set out to do, which was to try and hit pole. Go quickly early, because it may well be a rather short 24 hours for them. We keep saying that, but they keep pegging away. They've had their issues, mechanicals wise. They are back with us. So is the Delta Wing, as you can see. The Nissan had electrical issues yesterday, as well as a fire extinguisher going off. Got a bit rough out there. It's pacing itself rather nicely in a class of its own, as we've already mentioned to you, and quicker than 5 P2 cars, so it has got some pace about it. Whether or not it's going to get in the way, we will see a little bit later on. We had the suspicion of that earlier today. It's a hard one to read, not only for the driver on board, but clearly as well for those around it. It's a unique vehicle, so it behaves rather unusually, and I don't think any other great event such as the Le Mans 24 hours would sanction it, but we have, and it's a delight to have it on board, as it is Mr. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, thanks very much, Nick. Good to be back here again. And you know, that car last night, we only saw it for, I think it did 4 laps before they had the problem out at Tertre Rouge. And what happened down there was that Michael Krum was on a pretty quick lap, and he hit some sort of debris, which also I think Karun Chandhok also in the JRM HPD car, and what it did, it threw him over a curb heavily, and when the car landed, the fire extinguisher went off and the electrical system cut out all at the same time. So he was trying to figure out what to do, and he was told by, what I was told is he was sort of by one marshal supposed to go on to the next one to report back to the pits for some reason, which he did. I'm not sure why he did that either, because you're not allowed to leave the vicinity of the car. And when he got back to it, he was told, no, you've been too far away from the car. This car's disqualified from the session. So they brought it back to the garage, and really all it needed was to reset the master switch, clear up the fire extinguisher fluid, and off he could have gone. But the car was taken to Parc Fermé, done for the session, so that was the end of that. But when it came past here on that lap last night, as Michael Krum was starting what was going to be a flying lap, I did happen to notice it was really putting the power down incredibly well coming out of the Ford chicane. It really got a launch off there. It was going very quickly, and the data they tell me suggested that he could have got down to the below the 3 minutes 40 bracket. Now, if would, could, should, maybe, ultimately, however, didn't. So we'll see what that car can do this evening. They say they're not going to go out and do a sort of a qualifying type run. But quite frankly, yeah, I'm not quite sure why they wouldn't. There's nothing to lose. I know that their focus, Liz, is to finish the race, but still, let's see what the car can do.
Well, I think at the moment they're quite confidently thinking they probably won't finish the race, and I think they're okay with that. They understand they've not done really enough time behind the wheel to totally focus on that as the plan. They also are not a classified car, so they wouldn't be placed. But I know one thing about that car, it's very, very light. What they've seen in practice and what they've seen here is unlike a normal car that pulls away from the corner and accelerates and then sort of plateaus. This car just keeps pulling and keeps getting faster, which is really interesting and must be an odd thing for the drivers out there with the car, judging where they are in relation to it. So that's an interesting fact. And also, just for those who are probably wondering, gone are the days of the dramatic fire extinguisher going off with white powder filling your helmet and everything. And apparently now they're using mainly gases for a fire extinguisher, sort of that type of system, which is really interesting. I didn't know that until today, speaking with Duncan Dayton. So for anyone who's imagining the big spectacular white powdered Michael Krum, I'm afraid I'm going to have to burst your bubble on that.
325 kilometers per hour here. That's your live speed, as you can see it. And he's on a real push here, Jarvis. In fact, in the first sector, he's quicker than Dumas was out there a little bit earlier on today. Those times, each sector time has been tumbling down, and we are getting very, very quick. We're just watching outside of our commentary position here. It's almost like we're little kids, to be honest. Every time it comes by, we go, yippee, it's back. Again, the zero car, and it's heading back up that start-finish rate. It's a lovely sight.
The Delta Wing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's different.
Clearly there are mixed feelings in our commentary box.
I certainly do. I'm not sure of the relevance of what it has, but it is very interesting. But what is also interesting is how much speed it can carry through the forward chicane. Didn't seem to particularly do so on that lap, but what is noticeable is the acceleration. I mean, it's light, it's still got 300 odd horsepower, but it's very light. It really does accelerate off those corners really rapidly. It's very noticeable here.
I think the drivers have had to adapt their driving skills as well to this car, because a really important point is that based on where the front wheels are and the size of them and how large the rear wheels are and the weight distribution, which is over 70% towards the rear of the car, they can't actually do any trail braking, which a lot of drivers get very used to doing. You get on the brakes and you drive in to plant the front of the car down a little bit with your foot on the brakes, but in this car it actually wouldn't work at all. It just wouldn't turn. So they must brake in a straight line and then turn the cars in, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that in the chicane and various places where the drivers are just making sure they get the car through the corner and then make use of that acceleration as they come out.
Everyone looking at timing boards at the moment. Look at some approach speeds that we got here, and it's getting to that time of night. The retinas on the cameras here are as wide as you like. For most people this would be counted as darkness, but it's kind of being enhanced for you televisually. You can see the flare on the back lights here as the two cars tries to pick its way through. That was very almost got into the Farnbacher Porsche here, and well, this is the magic of Le Mans, I think you might say, but that was a hairy moment.
Didn't miss that Morgan by much either, did it?
Well, you can just see how much acceleration this e-tron Quattro has coming out of what is probably the tightest corner, or one of the tightest corners at Le Mans. Arnage is a spectacularly slippery part of the track as well, and he just got on the gas with that little bit of four-wheel drive, and away he went.
You can hear the e-tron Quattro actually picking up the energy that helps the braking, incidentally. I'll be interested to see if, I'm not suggesting that there will be a system failure, but just if the retrieval system did actually fail, just how much difference that would make, and how quickly the drivers could adapt. He's keeping it very tight in on everybody. Is he drafting through the entire field? It's Tom Christensen. Oh!
He's definitely
Tom, you're on a mission. You are on a mission out there.
Fastest sector one time, Tom Christensen as well. And then he knew that he had it he probably knew he'd done a fastest sector time and thought, well, if I can just hold it together. And I think we would have seen a very, very fast lap indeed if he hadn't had the traffic problems he did, because that almost certainly slowed him down.
Well, look at the way he's picking through now, Jeremy.
And that was the best time that car has done, a 3:25.759. Remains third. But I'm not sure what time he'd done before, but that was the fastest lap. So slightly quicker than before. Yeah, a very interesting hybrid system on that car, and you can hear it, you're harvesting the energy under braking.
How is it for you so far?
We're quite happy. Obviously we didn't have the best preparation, especially yesterday with the engine failure, but today is another day, and everything seems to run pretty smoothly. Hopefully we'll be able to keep improving our lap time and see what we can achieve, but we're quite happy so far.
Are you impressed by the chrono of Loïc Duval?
Yes, it's a very quick lap. Obviously I think Anthony could have done a bit better, so let's see how much he can improve, but that's a really good lap, yeah.
The night is falling now. Do you think it's possible to improve the lap time even in the night?
Yes, I think so. The circuit keeps improving, the temperature comes down, the engine can breathe a little bit better, so I still think we can improve.
Every driver thinks that they can continually improve, and let's just hope that he's right. It would be something rather special. They, incidentally, in the Morgan badge machine, the 24 car is leading P2 at the moment, and just to refresh your memory, Corvette just been given a little bit of a spanking at the moment by Ferrari and Aston Martin. Darren Turner is in the 97 Aston, second quickest at the moment. I almost said the Farnbacher Ferrari, but it's Farnbacher on board indeed. The 59 car. This is going to be interesting as well when we start to get the interlopers in the 71 machine who can't get on board the 51. Worth reminding everybody about this.
Yes, yeah, the 51 car with sorry, who was on board it yesterday?
Hey, hold on, fastest lap. Lotto has just blitzed it.
Oh my word.
Unbelievable.
3:23.7. What did we say all this time? It's going to be very fast when the sun went down, and already we just started the session, only just under 15 minutes into the session, in fact, and we've already seen a very fast time, probably faster than the ACO had in mind.
It's a hybrid on top. It had to be that way, I guess, and the first car at a sub 3:24 here. That's remarkable. A 3:23.787. That's the target list.
Oh, it absolutely is, and I think they can do better than that. I think we're going to see better than that tonight, maybe even a second better. Who knows? We're only just starting into this night session, like we said. But going back to the number 51 car, after I had a minor blonde moment, it was Giancarlo Fisichella that was in that car yesterday and had a huge impact coming off the Porsche curves in perhaps the last corner on the whole circuit you ever want to have a crash on. It's the one that's never going to be small. And they've been allowed to actually qualify their lap times in the 71 car. That's the first time that I've ever seen that happen at Le Mans. And amazing that they were allowed to, but that means we've got 6 people trying to get in and out of one car.
Absolutely.
Maybe not ideal.
It's going to be a squeeze. They've got to get 3 laps in each. In fact, is it more because of the nighttime requirement as well? It's rookies, don't forget. Essentially, despite the fact it's Fisichella, all of them have to put in the proper amount before they can race tomorrow. We're going to take a break and we'll be back live with the final qualification session here. It's all kicking off. Welcome back. Well, nobody at Audi wants to be worse than a Toyota, clearly. Lapierre is in the 7 car. Anthony Davison is in the 8. That currently is 4th quickest on track. But Andre Lotra has posted a remarkable 3:23.787, and he's fastest through the first sector as well. He's the first car to go underneath the 32-second mark in that opening sector, and he is looking extraordinarily quick here. It seems that time just not good enough as far as they're concerned. They want to bully everyone out there, and that's exactly what they're doing. Look at the target times we've got here. It almost seems unbeatable. We'll see how long it takes before that one falls, Jeremy.
Yeah, indeed, and he's really on a mission, is Andre Lotra. They gave the number 3 car an opportunity to set some fast times in the last session, and it certainly did that, but now the bar has been raised once again, first of all by Tom Christensen, who didn't quite match the speed of Loic Duval that set in the number 3 car early on, but there is Andre Lotra to the top of the charts, and we're still waiting for that S2 time, the sector 2, 81.2, which is a good sector, but it isn't the quickest that we have seen just yet. Joined in the booth by Darren Cox from Nissan Motorsports, and Darren, you guys are a bit busy this weekend. You've got a lot of irons in the fire.
Well, we've got 14 cars overall with Nissan engines in, 13 of them in the LMP2 class, which for me looks like is going to be an amazing battle up and down the grid. Someone said to me that there's probably 5 cars in that class that can't win, but 15 that can, so it's going to be a real battle royal, and with some great stories in there as well, some great driver combinations.
They certainly are, and I was talking to one of the engineers who'd done a sort of data analysis on the times of all the drivers, and they reckoned you said 50, he said 14. If you put 14 to the times, so if you average the top 3 or 5 laps from each of the drivers in each of the cars, there were 14 cars within 3%, which is not very much. And I think that, as you said quite rightly, that class is absolutely wide open. Colin, what was happening there?
Yeah, well, Lapierre just clipped part of the curbing here, sent the back end almost skyward. He did a great job actually of controlling it on the front wheels just to straighten it up to match the attitude of the rear of the car. We had a huge amount of sparks there. We've been talking earlier on today about how the undersection of the vehicles here is, it's built to take a lot of hammering, but I'm not sure how much more it could possibly take there without incurring damage. It shows you just how hard Toyota are pushing here. They are determined to be quick. as far as qualifying is concerned, because they're not sure just how long their run as far as the race itself is concerned is going to be. And I just hope that they hold it together here, because they're absolutely on the limit.
Now, you know, I think we're mischaracterising it a little bit, to be fair. I think they're planning on running the whole distance. They know it. They know
that's what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but certainly, you know, talking to the drivers, I mean, they're pumped. They love the handling characteristics of those cars. They're dialing it in better and better, and they're really working well as a team, I think. So, yes, you're absolutely right. It's very early in that car's gestation period, but they've made enormous strides, and it's going to be fascinating, I think, in the latter part of this session, Carlton, to see what time those guys can get down to, because I fancy there's a fair bit more to come.
Let's get back to this then, shall we?
On that moment there, was it on the exit of Tête Rouge, was it, do you think?
I think it was, yeah. What's the problem there?
Well, it's funny because yesterday, obviously, we had a very strange problem, and I think we probably did exactly the same. Michael Krum was in the Nissan Delta Wing, and he clobbered a curb on the exit of Tête Rouge, and the strange thing happened. It knocked the master switch off and set the fire extinguisher off. So I think the curbs there are quite big. We saw the car flying around there quite a lot, and that's what happened to us yesterday. That's what stopped our session last night quite abruptly.
Tell us a little bit about the engine itself. It's reasonably small, delivering a huge punch for a very lightweight machine.
Yes, it's a 1.6 direct injection gasoline turbo, and as I speak, the car goes back into the garage. I'm sure that's planned, of course, as the Audi does as well. Yes, and it's 1.6. We're running about 300 horsepower to the speed that we're running at the moment. Very, very fuel efficient. We've done a huge amount of work on the engine to make it as light as possible and as fuel efficient as possible, because, of course, it's sitting in an extremely lightweight car, and a car that's been designed basically to be as efficient on its fuel as possibly it can be.
Just looking at John Martin here, he is top of P2 at the moment. This must be joy.
Well, I think if I look up and down the top, I guess 6 or 7, they're probably all got Nissan engines in those cars at the moment. So we're normally very we're not too confident when we go into race meetings, but I think we could say if we don't win in P2 this weekend, we'll be very, very disappointed. We've got some fantastic teams that are running our engines, and we're very thankful for them to be partners with us.
Let's just return to the O-Card just momentarily. Realistically, presumably finishing 24 hours would be quite an achievement, especially in the lead-in time that you've actually had here. What is it, 100 days or so?
I think to actually get here has been an absolutely incredible achievement. You know, if you think about it, the ACO announced this car as the Garage 56 exactly a year ago today. And, you know, everybody that was anybody said that there was no way the car would turn for a start off, and it certainly wouldn't be getting to Le Mans. So the fact that we're here, we're turning laps. You know, last night, very disappointed. I mentioned the incident at Tête Rouge. We probably could have gone into the high 30s at that point. You know, we were on a qualifying time. Tonight, we've got to do a little job of getting our drivers qualified through the night, so they've all got to do 5 laps each. So we've turned it down. We're going very, very conservative in terms of our times. So to finish the race would be incredible if we did that. You know, as you say, 24 hours. We saw from Audi last year a team that we are in awe of in terms of their facilities and the resources they've got. They had 1 car finish out of 3. We've got 1 bullet in the gun, and we've got to try and make it last as long as we can. Every lap we turn in the race will prove more people wrong, and hopefully get us more fans, because that's what we're trying to do this weekend, is get more fans involved in what we're doing.
Well, quite right. I think you've done exactly that. The amount of coverage you've got, certainly in the British press, has been absolutely phenomenal. Speaking as for the French press here as well, I've seen plenty of it. It seems every car magazine has it either on the front cover or as a major feature, which is quite an achievement.
And lots of fan activities going on here at the track as well, Darren.
Yeah, you know, we're big motor racing fans at Nissan. We're petrol heads like the guys out there in the grandstands. And you know, the problem at some race meetings, and we know what Formula 1, for example, the fans are excluded from a lot of things, and at Nissan we like to try and make you know, the sport as accessible as possible. Through our GT Academy program, we get at the moment 1 million people trying to qualify to be the next GT Academy champion. But here on site, there's lots of things we're doing. We're sponsoring the concert. We're bringing DJs over from the world famous Ministry of Sound as part of the party atmosphere. And something you'll be able to see from your commentary booth here, we've got, which we haven't talked much about. We were trying to keep it secret, but I'll tell you because you'll be able to see it. We've got the grandstand in the sky, which basically you bolt yourself into a capsule. The crane lifts you up 37 metres in the air, and you have a 20-minute flight just by here, just by the Ford chicane out your window there, and that's for our guests and our customers to have a go. So there's lots of things we're doing, and the great thing we're doing is bringing some of this stuff to the campsites, because we know that the big fans are in the campsites. So we're bringing something special out. We've got a Duke which has got a big sound system in with the Ministry of Sound. We'll be going out with the fans and showing them what that's all about.
So that's enough of the racing, isn't it?
Well, and apparently there's a race going on as well. So
yeah, let's just go back to the race a moment. The Zero car. I mean, one of the big things about this is you've taken a Duke engine out of your Nissan range, and that's powering the car. Tell us more about that.
Well, certainly the Duke engine 1.6 DIGT is an engine we're going to be using going forward. You know, most manufacturers, let's be honest, are going to have smaller capacity turbo engines in their cars, and indeed their performance cars. So the quicker we get them into our racing cars, I think we'll learn more and more about them. Here again, something else we're doing, we've launched the Nissan Duke Nismo, a world exclusive here this weekend with the fans in the village, and effectively everything we learn from the engine that's in the Nissan Delta Wing we'll put into making that engine and subsequent engines and derivatives of that car faster and faster, and that's what it's all about. You know, we can all go, you know, we've got some big V8 engines in these P2 cars. We can do that, we can go head to head with other manufacturers racing that sort of technology, but we like to try something different, and I think even if you're not a motorsport fan, you can't avoid the fact that the Delta Wing is different. Like it or loathe it, and that's that we understood that. There are people out there that don't like it, but that's fine. There's lots of people that love it as well.
The night is falling, but the number one car just improved the best time. Is everything going under your plans?
Yeah, until now we've been running through the program we have planned, and everything worked out fine. We have still some work to be done, so I hope it will stay dry, that we can go through our program.
You are the orders to for your drivers to keep pushing and maybe improve again the best times?
I mean, we are working on to find out what the best tires and the best setup combination is for the race weekend, and that's what we work for. And if some quick laps happen with the tires we work with the setup we have, and with not so much fuel in the car, this was what happened with Andre.
Are you happy with the comparison between the e-tron and the number 3 and 4 cars? Did you plan that it was so close?
We knew that there will be a small difference, but we did not know exactly how much it is. So at present it looks as if it would be about half a second, but we have to compare properly the laps, because you never know how much influence from traffic has been.
Thanks a lot.
Ulrich, and we bid a fond farewell to Darren Cox of Nissan, who did a pretty good job of telling us all about his present PR, but it is a remarkable project that they've got here, and quite right that he says one day, you know, they know the benchmark. It is Audi here.
Yeah, that's right, that's absolutely right. And interesting hearing from Dr. Ulrich there and talking about the two different technologies they have on their cars, the two e-tron Quattro cars with the hybrid system driving the front wheel, so it's effectively, at least as it comes out of the corner, a four-wheel drive car, and then the more, you know, slightly more conventional R18 Ultra, which is the car numbers 3 and 4. And it's interesting to see from the times last night that the trap speeds on the top speeds on the main straight. The Toyota was actually fastest of all at 332 kilometers, just about 206 miles an hour, and the two R18 Ultras, the older cars, were about 5 or 6 k's faster than the e-tron Quattros. And you know, what's interesting to me about that is the fact that the four-wheel drive cars, the e-tron Quattro, they really get on the power coming out of the corner. With that four-wheel drive, they really launch off the corner, but then they have a sort of a mechanical drag effectively, which doesn't give them quite the same ultimate straight line speed. And they came here, and I think really I was speaking to one of their engineers earlier on, and they didn't really quite understand or appreciate exactly what sort of difference there was going to be between those cars. I think they were a little bit surprised to find it was as much as 6 kilometers or so. But it's interesting here, isn't it? Because you want to be fast on the straights, but the four-wheel drive car really gets that jump off the corner. It's going to be, even if you're faster, it's going to be hard to overcome that initial launch that the car gets.
Yeah, that is very, very true, Jeremy. And I mean, a big part of Le Mans is being fast on the straights, but also it's the mechanical grip and having a car that's very safe to drive quickly. And I think if anyone was going to throw a little bit away, they'd say, I'll lose a couple mile an hour on the straight, only a couple, to have more mechanical grip and have a car that you could drive very quickly through, say, the Porsche curves without feeling like you're going to throw it off the track. For 24 hours, you need a car that's good to drive. We've had an interesting comment from Jonathan Main on the Twitter saying, will the Audi get near Duval's 3:19 lap record? Well, the ACO is hoping they won't, because they've done their best to rein them back over the last couple of years, and that's actually why we've not seen the cars going quite so fast as they did then. However, I think they're going a little bit quicker than they expected.
They are. They're gunning for it, you can tell. We will be back. We'll take a short break, and we'll see if those top 3 Audis can be joined by Jarvis in the 4th. Welcome back. We're riding on board with the 23 Oracle Nissan at the moment. Other good news, that is Mayo, incidentally, on board that, just on the timing sheets ahead of the Zero car for the time being. But Stuart Hall is out there. Pescarolo have done a superb job with the 16 car. May well have had his handling issues yesterday, which scared the pants off Jean-Christophe Bouillon. Took a dodgy left-hand sudden turn at the Michelin chicane, but it's back out there and running. And Stuart Hall, it's in his hands. I understand he's put in about 5 laps so far, and a 3:53.189 is quickest so far.
And great to see them getting that car back out on track. I know we were questioning if they would actually have it out before the night session, but I know Stuart did do a few laps before this session, which is really a testament to Henri Pescarolo. And gosh, I'd really love to see both his cars in the race.
I think we all would. Parts apparently was an issue because of the underside of the vehicle, but clearly they've managed to source them, Jeremy, and they are running, which is great news.
Yeah, it certainly is. They've certainly worked hard. They've got their backs to the wall, those guys. I was thinking to make Nicola Manassi out a little earlier this evening, and he's driving the other car. So Pescarolo has 2 cars in this race, but they are completely different cars. They're running the Dome chassis that has been primarily developed in Japan, and they're also running their own Pescarolo 03 chassis as well. So it's a big workload, but they've got a lot of experience there, and they've got 2 entirely separate teams running each of those 2 cars.
Well, as if he hadn't had enough publicity, I think we've got Michael Crum coming up of the Delta Wing project in just a few moments' time. So look forward to that as the 31 machine looms into sight. I do love these backlit numbers. It does help us. That's Morrow at the end of the P2 ranking at the moment. Can he move any further up? No, he can't, not this time.
Michael, you lost some time yesterday. How is it tonight?
Yes, because of the little accident yesterday, we have to qualify all of our drivers tonight in the last qualifying. So we're doing that right now. Moteyama is qualified already. Now Marino is qualifying, and after I have to do, I think, 1 more lap when I stopped yesterday. So I have to do 1 more lap after. That's the most important thing. The Nissan Delta Wing runs really well today, as long as we keep it on the track, which we're doing at the moment.
Do you have time also to work to improve the setup?
Sorry?
Do you have time also to improve the setup and to work on it?
Yes, absolutely. In the session before, we improved the car a lot, and we're working towards the race now, and we're having a really good balance in the car, and we're really looking forward to the race. With the car right now, it's fantastic.
Are you happy with the pace?
Yes, I mean, yesterday we could have gone into the 30s if I don't make a mistake. We know that, of course, if there's less traffic. So we're really happy with the performance of the Nissan Delta Wing. We have not expected to be able to drive so fast, especially around the Porsche corners. The Nissan Delta Wing is absolutely fantastic pace. If you look at the car, we have no wing attached to it, and we still have so much downforce to go around it. Absolutely amazing feeling. So it's great fun to drive it, and the pace is good, and we see what happens in the race.
Yeah, we will indeed see what happens in the race. Computer design, by the way. Not a whole load of wind tunnel involved, but I'm sure some.
Yeah, and Michael Krum there, I mean, massively experienced. He first raced here at Le Mans back in 1998, as indeed did Satoshi Motoyama, who he's sharing the car with. And the year later, in 99, they two actually shared a car together. Here they are, 13 years later, once again sharing a car at Le Mans. So those two big buddies. Michael Krum from Germany originally, but done most of his racing for most of the last 20 years has been in Japan. And a very experienced driver. They two have both won numerous championships in all sorts of different series, so it's a good combination. And of course Marino Franchitti as well is no shortage of ability.
This is the JRM car, which didn't come out for most of the previous session. I know they had a bit of a gearbox issue purely from just hitting some of the curves. I think the car was a bit shaken up. We spoke to David Brabham earlier, and he said they're really struggling with their tires. Amazingly enough, on Michelin tires, which are usually the tire to have out here, he said they've got a soft and an extra soft compound, and they thought the extra soft would be better in the cooler conditions, but in fact it apparently works better when it's hotter. So they've had a little bit of struggle. He said they're really having some scary moments around the track. In the high speed stuff, the downforce is actually making the tire work for them, but in the slow speed, he said they're just really struggling to get any grip at all, which is really interesting, because I think back to when we were driving here with Goodyear tires and we were using a hard compound, you know, and he's saying we can't get one soft enough to get around here. So it's interesting to see the difference in all of those compounds, and I hope that they can get things dialed in. I know they're going to change some pressures, work around with it, so we'll have to watch their lap times very closely to see what comes out.
That's exactly right, and it's interesting that several teams, particularly last night, it was fairly cool last night, but it certainly wasn't cold, but several drivers were saying they were having difficulty getting heat into the tyres, and we had Karun Chandhok yesterday, and in fact all of the drivers said, we just can't get the car working. And they've sort of made some changes, as you said, Liz, to try and get more initial bite, if you like, to get the car to get some heat in the tyres earlier on. And I think it was more, from talking to them and also to Nigel Stepney, who's a technical director there. Nigel Stepney, of course, with Ferrari for many, many years in Formula One primarily. He's never actually been involved in a race here at Le Mans before, but he has been here for the last 2 or 3 years just scoping things out, knowing that JRM was going to come here at some stage. And, it's a bit of an inexperience there, and also inexperience with Karun Chandhok, who's run virtually no sports car racing at all, well, none until this year. And Peter Dumbreck, he's driven at the top level in sports cars, but again, not for many years. So the unfamiliarity plus the fact that David Brabham wasn't available to come here for the test day a couple of weeks ago, I think it's really set them back. So they've kind of gone back to basics now, and they're trying to sort of effectively start from scratch.
Well, I've been amazed to hear how many teams are struggling with tires this year, more so than I remember hearing before. And you're hearing it not just on one type of tire, but lots of different cars, GT cars, LMP2, LMP1 cars, different compounds, different manufacturers. So it's not sort of one person to blame, and I'm trying to figure out what that is. I know the temperatures have been cooler, but today it's not that cool today. So nice. Perhaps it has something to do with the resurfacing, some of it, but I would have thought that would have given everyone more grip. So it's I know a lot of people are saying they've had to put so much more downforce into their cars to try and make the tires work that now they're affecting their straight line speed. I can't really figure out why it's so different this year, to be honest.
The case with Aston Martin as well in the GTE ranks. And you're right, several people have suggested to me, wondering whether Michelin perhaps underestimated what was required here this year, and being a little bit more conservative than they would otherwise have been, because they're just, as you say, they're not getting the temperatures that they normally would have expected.
We just saw the IMSA Performance Porsche come in. The 67 car, starting off perhaps coming into this event as many people's favourites, but it's just not going their way at the moment. Not quite sure what the problems they're having. What issues would you say, Jeremy? Because for the time being, I just can't find them. I think they're way down the ranking at the moment.
Which car is that? Sorry,
the 67 IMSA Porsche.
It's not even on our screen.
No, exactly. So I think they're having their issues. Unfortunately, I've just dropped off the third screen here and can't retrieve it. But
we shall endeavour to figure out for everybody at home.
Yes, because as they came in with Armindo, who's extremely quick, well, a very quick gentleman driver, Narach, and Pons, of course, with their local knowledge to boot, you'd expect their campaign to be way up there. So,
well, if anybody out there actually knows, please fire some information our way, because we would like to know as well.
They really are off the radar at the moment. It just goes to to show you, Jeremy, it doesn't have to be. You can come from further down the order, and starting the race, I know it's a long old haul, but you'd like to be as far up the grid as you possibly can be, and some very big name teams have got work to do still.
Yeah, and the pace in that GTE amateur class is much enhanced from last year. I mean, they're going probably 4 or 5 seconds quicker than they were 1 year ago, because they're still running year-old cars, but now they're running 2011 cars. And as we saw yesterday, the 2011 car, the Porsche with Patrick Pilet at the wheel in the Flying Lizard amateur, GTE amateur class car, was actually quickest of all of the Porsches, and indeed remains so. So, the narrower bodywork on that last year's Porsche, this year the GTE cars are all a little bit wider, which gives them more grip and more stability, and I think overall probably more consistent pace. But because it's a little bit wider, they're pushing a bit more of a hole through the air, so they're not quite as fast on the straight. So it's again that balance of getting the straight line speed with the cornering speed, but it's all down to consistency at the end of the day. And Raymond Narak and those guys in that IMSA performance car, they know what it takes to win here. They've done it before, Raymond Narak has, and he knows that it's all about consistency. If they get that car to be comfortable for them, that's what they're looking for ultimately.
Look, we talk so much about the qualifying right now. We're sitting here and we're going, gosh, can he squeeze that extra second out in the qualifying? Okay, it's amazing if whoever can qualify up the top. It makes the team feel great, makes the drivers feel great. You come out here on Saturday thinking, this is amazing, we're at the top, we're ready to fight. However, it's a 24-hour race. You can start from the back and you can still win. And, definitely, I remember Sebring when we started from the absolute back of the grid and we finished second behind the Audi overall in an LMP2 car, which was amazing. But it's if you can get the luck, that's what does it.
There are your category leaders. For the time being, it's Audi at top of P1. It is Martin on board the Oreca Nissan, a whole load of them incidentally, in P2. As far as the Pro GT class, it's Farnbacher and the Ferrari leading the Aston just for now, and Pumpelly and the Porsche. It's Porsche's at the top of the AMs. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. Well, if this is the golden period, hold on to your hats, because it is busy out there. The field are coming in for another change, and then it's going to be all hell breaking loose. Maybe because Kiko Ihara has got back in the car as well. She managed one lap yesterday and then damaged the front. We are hoping that she does a proper time here in the 29 car, the Gulf Racing Middle East, kind of second stringer, I think you might call it.
Tommy, you're actually in third position. How happy, how satisfied are you with your position and with the car so far?
Yeah, I think our Corvette, we kind of expected to be about where we are right now. I mean, I think going in, looking at the test day, both the Ferrari and Aston were quite quick. But we're it's so close right now. It's only a few tenths away from P1. So Oliver tried earlier to try again there for pole, and just didn't tire something wasn't quite right. So that effort didn't pan out. But really the race is what matters the most. So we're focusing on our race pace and race setup. So we'll get Richard now qualified for the night, and then I'll go back in and we'll try some more setup options on the car.
You will be back in the car soon. What will be your objective? You will try to keep that pace and to work for tomorrow and to push hard and maybe to grab one position.
Yeah, we still have some work to do with the tires and trying to figure out exactly what our plan is with the tires. So we'll spend some time this session here trying different things with the tires and still a little bit of setup. The car feels really, really good, but we can still improve it. So we'll make some changes from after Richard's out of the car and then go from there.
What about your opponent? What do you think about the Ferrari?
Yeah, I mean, the whole class is very competitive. There's 9 cars in the class, and I think come race day, there'll be 9 cars that can win the race. So it'll be a huge fight from the start of the race. And, I think hopefully the first 22 hours of the race will go smoothly for most of us. And the last 2 hours, we can put on a good show and show the fans a good race.
Just seeing that the 26 Signatech Nissan in the hands of Nelson Panciatici is actually in the gravel at the moment, which is possible. Race director, is he going to have a brief word with us? I understand that you at home can hear this, so if we hear it in our cans as well, we will stum as quick as we can. Nothing just yet, but yellow flag nonetheless in part of the circuit.
That is not a good place indeed to have yellow flags. That's the last place you want to have anything go wrong, is the exit of the Porsche curves. And I think that's a different location than where we just saw the Signatech car. And amazingly,
we have two parts of the track in the yellow, the second chicane and the Porsche curves. Second chicane and the Porsche curves.
They're giving it a long old yellow.
No, that is a big hit. That looks like the dome.
Yeah.
Oh
It is.
no, what's that?
Driver of car 17 apparently.
There we are.
Okay.
You've just heard it. Driver okay.
And that's
severe damage. Yeah. So this is on a remote, by the way. We'll have full camera coverage of the course for the race itself, but that's a remote camera just for the time being.
On the left-hand side before car 17, there are debris on the extreme left of the track on the Porsche chicanes.
Well, we said it earlier. That is not the place you want to have an accident.
Okay, gentlemen, we stop the party now.
We're red flagged.
Red flag. Red flag. Slow your drivers down. Red flag.
There we are. Too much debris. We're going to just damage more vehicles. The session has been red flagged, Jeremy.
It has, and there's still some cars coming out of the Ford chicane. The number 8 car, Sebastian Buemi, the Toyota, just went across the line. So I'm surprised. Even now there's more cars coming across the line. I'm surprised their crews haven't been on the radio telling them to come in the pit lane. The first car that does come into the pits is the number 7 Toyota of Kazuki Nakajima. It's his countryman Seiji Ara who was driving that dome when it went off at the Porsche curve. So we've got cars off all over the place at the moment. The Signatech Nissan, I believe, was off at the second chicane. We saw a brief glimpse of that. As you can see, the marshal there holding the red flag at the pit lane exit.
And this is the first red flag that we've seen since this Le Mans weekend began. I think they clearly believe there's too much debris and too much risk to the drivers that were in those cars or to the other drivers.
Inform your drivers we are sending the flatbeds on track. Inform your drivers we are sending
There we are. The retrieval project goes on.
We need to do this quickly.
Yes, quite proper.
Yeah, I didn't really have much choice there, probably. That post roller coaster, it's a dangerous place, isn't it, through the Porsche curves? So you don't want a car just parked to the edge of the track, and there isn't anywhere where that particular car is parked where they can pull it easily behind the wall. So a good decision there to send out the flatbed and bring it back.
But what a shame for Henri. What a difficult weekend he's had. Especially now we're in the last evening. That car must have been pushing quite hard to try and make a time, and must have been a big impact if he's not able to drive back. Well, you can see there a lot of damage to the car, debris spread everywhere. He's probably hit in a few locations and spun it around to spread it across the track that much.
Well, just from the attitude of where he is, and you can see as well, maybe I thought for a moment we're going to get a replay of from this remote here. Still got a car beached as well, and quite right. They're going to flatbed, get out there, get the crane in order and the winch, and get this cleared up. But with 1 hour and 8, the clock still ticks, don't forget, when we're red flagged. So any chance of movement starts to ebb away here. Let's just hope that this one is dealt with quickly.
Yes, I mean, this could be a fairly long one, I think, because they've got a lot of debris to collect up. They're going to be sweeping the circuit as well, because these bits of carbon fiber on the circuit are just death to the tires. If you catch one of those in there in a high-speed puncture exiting the Porsche curves, would be a huge accident. So they're going to take their time to make sure it's all cleared up.
Absolutely, otherwise we just have more incidents to be dealing with here, and that is expensive. An hour has been called in. He's going to have to report immediately to race control. We'll see what that's about. For the time being, we are red flagged. I'm hearing we're going to take a commercial break in just a few moments' time. When we come back after that, we will see just how much work these guys have got to do.
Maybe he's got to go to race control to escape the wrath of Henri Pescarolo.
Yes. I think so, but you're absolutely
It's
right.
a great shame, as Liz was saying there, because Henri, his heart and soul is here in Le Mans.
Absolutely.
He won this race course himself, and he's very much a part of the institution here, and to have both of his cars suffering incidents of various natures is going to be hugely disappointing. You just got to hope now there's not too much damage to that car and they can get it back out again, because I was talking to Nicola Manassia and Sebastian Bourdais a little while ago. They share that car with Seiji Ara, and they're really pleased with it. They've done a lot of work. That is Sebastian Bourdais there on the right, and Richard De Vila there, the engineer on the left, who's been around this sport a long time. So there's a wealth of experience there, and as you can see, the Dome guys from Japan, they've put a massive amount of work into it. It was originally designed several years ago, that car, but they've been in a wind tunnel, they've done a lot of development, and they were getting good pace out of it as well.
That's a shame.
It's going to be a tired group of guys at the Pescarolo camp. There's no doubt that the crew from this car would have helped out to try and get Stuart Hall's car back on the road, and now they're going to have to reciprocate, as they're going to be some very tired people. They have said that they're trying to call CGR up to the race control immediately to have a chat. Unfortunately, we don't have our full television coverage around the track yet. We won't have that until race day, I understand. But it makes me wonder if there was perhaps a bit of an incident with another vehicle, or if he did something that race control doesn't think was quite as sportingly done as they would have liked.
We could only guess, frankly, for the time being, but we'll find out and we'll let you know. We will indeed take that commercial break, and when you come back, Mr. That's what we call him, Mark Cole, will be back with you, and I shall bow out for the evening and leave you in his good and capable hands, along with Jeremy Shaw and, of course, Liz Halliday. See you in a moment.
Welcome back to Eurosport. I'm Mark Cole, with me Liz Halliday, Jeremy Shaw. We're in a little bit of a hiatus at the moment. 9 hours of practice and qualifying behind us, 1 hour still to go, and we've got a red flag at the moment. Sergei Ara having crashed the dome at Porsche Curves. He's still in the car, as Liz points out, so he can be on the radio to the team, Liz.
We're about, yes, that was a big accident off of the Porsche Curves, and we're about to talk to his teammate Nick Manassian. Hear what happened.
Nicola, we just saw the picture at night with the traffic. It's quite tricky there.
Yeah, he's that's Le Mans, he's always changing condition. He's always temperature is different. I don't know what happened. Looking at the TV, I don't know. I know Sergi is all right. That's one good thing. On the other hand, I hope the chassis is not touched, which is the most important bit of the car, and that's going to be a hard work for put everything back together. But these things happen, and it shouldn't happen, but it happen, and we've got to deal with it.
We saw you discussing with Sebastian and some other member of the team. Do you have any more news?
Now we got no other news. I don't know. Sergi has been asked to go to the race control, so I don't know if he's involved in another car or if it was an accident himself. So I don't know. We're trying just to get him on the radio so we can see if he can bring the car back. Sometimes the damage are not that great, and then you can do some change. But we couldn't get him on the radio, so maybe he hurt himself somewhere and didn't want to say. I don't know.
Thank you.
Well, very unhappy indeed in that racing camp. Such a long night they've had already fixing the other car. As he said there, we're not really sure why the race control wants to speak to him. Quite often it's because he had an accident involving another car or putting another car in danger, but we just don't know at this stage, really. We have heard the race director, I know it was probably hard for you at home to hear that, but he has said they're going to try and resume racing or the driving at 11 o'clock, which is about 2 minutes away. So we'll wait and see what happens there. The other car that was involved was the...
Gentlemen, we are starting in 40 seconds. Session will start at 40.
Well, there you hear it. We're starting in 40 seconds, so they've cleaned that up really, really quickly, and they must have retrieved the number 26 car quite quickly as well, and that will have spread some gravel across the track, Jeremy. It'll make it a little bit more exciting out there in the second chicane where it's slippery already.
Yeah, I guess the good news is that he went sort of straight off there in the sort of kind of the middle part of the chicane, so I don't think he would have... He could consider sort of shoveled some gravel straight on ahead, but at least he didn't bring it out again and drive back onto the racing line. So with a bit of luck, it might not have made it too bad for everybody else.
Well, we'll hope not. There's been so many cars off the track through those two chicanes this year. It's just been amazing. And green flag,
well,
very quick
turnaround.
Very quick
clear up that, and let's hope Pescarolo, at least he's got tomorrow, Jeremy, to get the car fixed. So.
Yeah, and they do have the brief warm-up, don't they, on race day morning as well, so they can, assuming they can get it back together again, they've got plenty of time to do a system check and make sure everything is fine before the start of the 24 hours on Saturday afternoon.
So if you're just joining us here on Eurosport in the final hour of qualifying for the 80th edition of the Le Mans 24 Hours, on provisional pole at the moment, Benoit Trullier, 3 minutes 23, the only car that's got below the 3:24 barrier. Marc Genet in the second place car that Loic Duval put on in that place, and Dindo Capello in third in the car that Alan McNish put in that place, or was it Tom Christensen?
It was TK, wasn't it?
TK,
yeah, earlier today.
I think probably for Audi's point of view, the good thing about that is it's the hybrid that's on top rather than the Ultra.
Yes, and it was certainly an excellent lap by Andre Lotterer there to put that car, the #1 car, on the provisional pole right now. But you know, I wonder whether we're going to see some fireworks here from, I think it was one of the Toyotas back out onto the track, Kazuki Nakajima, who I spoke to a little while ago at the beginning of the last session in the pit lane, and he's a lovely guy, first of all, and very chatty and really enjoying himself in the sports car ranks. And Sebastian Bourdais maybe taking a visit to
just going into race control. To see what they want Seiji Ara for. Seiji was sitting in the car. Wasn't, as you said, much he could do about going to race control.
That's right. But just very briefly with Nakajima, he was, they're really happy with the handling on that car. They worked very hard on it. They're making some tweaks. They've trimmed out the other car to try and get the same straight line speed they were getting from #7 car last night. And from speaking to those two, they led me to believe that there might be some more pace in that car, and that they believed haven't yet shown what that car can do. So I'm hoping that in the last 20 minutes or so tonight, Liz, that we're really going to have a bit of a, I don't know, maybe whether it'll be a shootout, but I hope we can get some more pace out of those nonetheless impressive Toyotas, and maybe they can just give Audis a little bit of a run for their money.
Well, I would really like to see that. I think it would be exciting to start. Like I've been saying all along, I'd love to see Toyota and Audi on the front row of the grid. I think it would be great for the fans here at Le Mans to just see a little bit of a tussle at the start. Audi always gives it large at the beginning, even though they're still looking after the cars. They do have a proper race at the beginning of this 24 hours, and I think it would be far more exciting for all of us if we had a little bit of a mix-up at the beginning of the race.
I agree, and we're so used to seeing these turbo diesels at the front, and what's a great thing, another great thing about this Toyota program, it's not a turbo diesel, it's a petrol engine car, and they have a hybrid system like they do on the e-tron Quattros of the car numbers 1 and 2 here from Audi, but it's a completely different sort of a hybrid system. It harvests the energy in a completely different way. It stores it in a supercapacitor, which is kind of a sort of a super battery sort of a thing, and it's very interesting why they chose to drive it through to use that power, that electrical power, and drive it through the drivetrain of the rear wheels and through the gearbox rather than through the front wheels like they do on the Audi. So completely different technology, a completely different way of attacking this hybrid exercise, and I think it's quite remarkable to me what they've been able to achieve in such a very short period of time, Mark.
Yes, I think very, very good work. The intention was only to run one car in selected races.
Yeah, a couple of races.
Didn't include Le Mans. Suddenly they're here with 2 at Le Mans. We just incidentally saw the other Pescarolo car with Manu Collard being strapped in. Stuart Hall has done all the laps he needs to do, so he's in the race. So is Manu. Liz.
Well, I think another important point to make that I don't think any of us have touched on yet is this is the first time there's been a petrol car that can challenge Audi on pace. I know they probably won't be able to challenge them for the race, and even they understand that because it's just not been enough time. But it's the first time since the diesel came out at Le Mans for the first time. I've said the first time too many times. But yeah, that's the first time we've seen a petrol car up there in the rankings of the times that can actually battle it out with it, and maybe this gives us something exciting to look forward to in the future.
Perhaps then we can't talk about this car as being the petrol division leader, because of course, as you just reminded me, both Toyotas are petrol. It's the top petrol non-hybrid car at the moment, and that Danny Watts has been put back in. This is what they did last year with Danny. They waited till the cool of evening, said to Danny, right, here's some nice fresh tyres, out you go there and do your bit. Now Danny has got support from his father Clive. He's here tonight. Father Clive, who incidentally was a Jaguar flag signaller when Martin Brundle won in 1990, so it's a big day for him, and his brother Ben's here as well, all from Thornborough in Buckinghamshire, my village, as Seabass walks down the pit lane, gets the cheers of a lot of people. Still very, very popular here, Jeremy.
Yeah, he lives here in Le Mans. He's a Le Mans native. His father raced here many times as well. Talk about the family affair that is motor racing, and he's a heck of a driver, Sebastian Bourdais, and it's interesting that he's never quite had the opportunity. We've had the opportunity to win this race. Hasn't quite managed it though. 3 podium finishes. He was on the podium here last year, and I think there's a little bit of bitterness. He hasn't got that win under his belt, and Yeah, but he's got a good attitude, I thought. I spoke to him yesterday, and I asked him, what's it like being here, knowing this time, after several years of having a potential winning car, not to have an opportunity to win it, because unless there's something very freaky with all the hybrid cars. And he's very relaxed about it. He's enjoying working with Henri Pescarolo and Nick Manascian and Segiara and developing this new car. So for him in particular, a good attitude.
We're going to a quick break. We'll be back with a lot more here from Le Mans. We've still got another 54 minutes.
Welcome back to Eurosport. We are still live here in the second hour of the last qualifying session. So there's all to play for still. We've got Audi at the top, but we're still all waiting to see if maybe we're going to find a dash for glory from the Toyotas.
Lena Gade, the engineer who took the number 3 car to the victory last year at Le Mans, and number 3 last year, number 1 this year of course, but Lena becoming a first woman race engineer in history to win at Le Mans, and she's going to have a very sleepless Saturday night, isn't she?
Oh my goodness, yes. Audi here with their biggest entry so far. They've never had 4 cars before at Le Mans. They've had 3 last year and they finished very well indeed with those cars, but first time they've had 4. And on that line we've had an interesting tweet come through from Calvin Morgan saying, what do we think it would do for the sport if Audi didn't finish and Toyota won?
Well, you and I have discussed this, so we're going to give this one to Jeremy.
Yeah, what do you think, Jeremy? Because we've already talked about it.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for many reasons. I think it would show other manufacturers perhaps that it can be done, and there's many ways to skin the cat. I think it would be cool, but with the regulations, of course, changing for 2014, and those rules were pretty much announced this morning. Mark, have you talked about that somewhat already in the show?
Yes,
we actually just talked about it between ourselves. We were just sort of wandering along to hospitality saying, wouldn't it just be crazy if Audi didn't win and none of their cars finished it? So it's really funny that someone said that, and I think what it would do is actually make Audi crazy, number 1. And we were joking saying, well, they'd probably come back with 16 cars next year just to make sure they could take charge of that. And but wouldn't it be amazing for the sport? It would bring back the rivalry, it would bring back the excitement, and wouldn't the media just go crazy?
And Jeremy just raising, of course, the new regs 2014 for LMP1, but some big changes there. We did talk about it briefly earlier, but those who are just joining us may like to know that they'll be banning open LMP1 cars from 2014, and any manufacturer coming in, Jeremy, has to have hybrid cars.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's the main thing. It's a fuel restricted formula. I mean, there's basically no rules other than the fact
we're getting back to Group C. They're going to be given. Normally at Le Mans they'll be given 4.81 litres of petrol per lap or 3.93 litres of diesel. They're going to have to stick that. We could see a 24-hour race finishing with a few cars crawling round.
Which would definitely take us back to what we were years ago.
No, because not necessarily. What's different to Group C is it's, as you said there, per lap. So you're going to have to do throughout the whole race. You don't have a set amount of fuel on which to do the race like you used to have to in the Group C days. This time you've got a set amount of fuel per lap, but every lap. Not just the last lap or the last hour, but every single lap of the whole
race,
the whole shooting match. So you're going to know from the first lap whether or not you're going to be able to make the finish.
Right.
That being the case.
So the fuel consumption is going to basically be reduced by 30%, is what the ACO is aiming for. And Vincent Beaumenil, who's the sporting director, said the 24 hours is a spectacle. We don't want to turn it into an economy run. So
and that's exactly why they made it per lap. And I was talking to some guys there earlier on today about they've got a sort of fuel metering system, fuel measuring system that is actually being tested on one of the cars here this weekend. It's on the Starworks car, and it measures the fuel flow, and that is the sort of technology they're looking to bring in a couple of years' time, but already doing development on that now.
Liz, a little present from Italy.
Just taking a look at this very hard-working 51 car team. Look at how far along this car has come. Brand new chassis came in, and it looks like a car already. They've done an amazing job. driver on board. I'm guessing they're just setting maybe some brake bias and getting bleeding out some different parts of the system. I'm not entirely sure, but this team must have had a very, very long night indeed.
Well, Dirty Sports Car's been speculating it will get out tonight just to get a couple of banker laps in, but there's not much to it.
Looks truly phenomenal.
And
how fast can a team build a race car?
Well, because it took them 2 weeks to repair it after Jimmy Bruni crashed here during the first day.
Maybe it's faster to just start over.
But what surprised me, Mark, is the fact. I mean, I know you're not allowed to have sort of spare cars here like you used to in Formula One in the old days. You have a couple of spare cars perhaps, but you're not even allowed in Formula One now. But I'm still surprised that there wasn't an extra Ferrari 458 just happened to be in the Le Mans area, ready to go for one of the teams in case of this sort of eventuality.
Well, all we know is what Amato Ferrari have, of course, told us. I mean, maybe that's exactly what there was. There's one round the back or something. We don't know.
Obviously not, because they've been flat out. If they had another car that was, oh gosh, it just happened to be. It was on its way, over to somewhere else. But we turned it around and we brought it here. They could have rolled it out this morning, or this afternoon for the first session.
Fisichella has been relegated to spaghetti cook for the rest of the weekend. So.
It is just amazing. Absolutely well done, guys. We are clapping here in the booth to you, and I really hope that car has a fantastic run, because thankfully it is a 24-hour race and they can start from the back and still win this thing if they can keep it on the black stuff.
Yeah, and let's hope this time they don't do the sort of thing that the shenanigans they saw at Sebring earlier on this year, the first round of the World Endurance Championship, where the number 50, wasn't 51 car, it was Beretta who was driving it, was laps down and trying to get his teammate to be able to win the race, and got in amongst the leaders on the last lap and caused various accidents there. It's a very unsavoury way to finish that race. And, that car, Jimmy Bruni, was actually disqualified from that race. So, maybe this is sort of payback to those guys for what they did at Sebring.
Liz, this is effectively one of your cars. This is the Senior-Tech Nissan, the PlayStation car.
Well, I don't know if it's one of mine, but
Olivier Lombard on board.
Yeah, Olivier Lombard on board in this car. This is the car that has Jordan Tresson driving it as well. He's the second generation GT Academy winner. His first Le Mans, and I'm really interested to see what he's made of nighttime at Le Mans. Now he's had a chance at it, and this is a great view we've got here of this LMP2 car. You can really see the full dash and that Motec system, the dash with all the information on the front. It's a really nice chance for everybody to see it in action. You can see the gear lights there. They come together and the driver shifts when the lights reach that middle point there with the red. It means it's time to shift at the optimal point. It's really nice to see.
Just like a PlayStation controller.
Well, yeah, I suppose, except far more exciting.
But look at the difference between these lights and the LEDs that the Audis carry. I mean,
it's a big difference.
Day and night, isn't it?
It is. They're still very good, and we are lucky at Le Mans that it's not as dark as somewhere like Spa, but there are portions of the track that you start to get comfortable in the lit up parts, and then you suddenly enter this part of the circuit with no lights at all, and you think, wow, I really am driving in the middle of the night at very high speeds. Here we go, we're coming into some of it now.
Obviously quite a steep learning curve for the guys. They're only running in 13th in P2, that car, the Eureka Nissan. They've got Frank Meyer on board, who of course he was where was Frank? He's been 5 times at Le Mans now, so he I guess is the tutor for these younger guys.
Yes, he was on board with the other driver last year.
Finished second.
Yeah, they finished second, and he did a huge amount of good for him, just teaching him his way around Le Mans. It makes a really big difference to have somebody there mentoring you. I know I had that in Sam Hancock my first year here. It's a big undertaking, and it's very awe-inspiring to be at Le Mans and to have somebody there, so to speak, holding your hand and saying, right, here's how you drive these corners, here's the way you need to take this on, and here's the mental approach you need for a 24-hour race of this magnitude. Is really, really helpful.
Yeah, and this night racing.
And one of the youngest driver combinations of all in that car, in the number 23 car. Frank Meyer, he's a veteran at 27. Jordan Tresson is 24, and Olivier Lombard, the youngest driver in the race actually now at 21 years of age. But it's that you talked there about the GT Academy thing, and of course Lucas Ordonez is steering the Greaves Motorsports car with the Brundles father and son, Martin and Alex, and there's a third,
another 21-year-old.
Yeah, and there's another third a third GT Academy guy here this weekend, not driving though, Sean Johnston.
Yes, I just saw him on our break actually.
Did you? Yeah.
Yes, I did. He's having a wonderful time.
He was second, wasn't he, in the American side?
He was second and very, very impressive actually.
He's racing. He's having his first season of car racing this year in North America, and he's being very, very impressive.
Look at the emotion here. AF Corse have got that car out with what, 44 minutes
amazing.
remaining.
I'm going to give them a little clap.
Here we go.
In the commentary box.
Let's give it to them.
How fast can you build a race car?
Yeah.
Ready, set, go, boys. 24 hours.
Matteo Ferrari there in the middle of them all, just congratulating him. AF Corse, of course, one of the class acts in GT racing, always been Ferrari, and there it goes, going out on the track. Who's taken the wheel? Can we see it, or?
I don't think that's on our page.
No, it'll be the next page, won't it?
But I would expect this car to do one lap quite conservatively, or just even their out lap. Come into the pit straight away. We will expect to see them do that. We'll call it they call it an installation lap. He'll come in. The crew will check over everything, make sure everything is working as it should, and then hopefully we'll see them go out and do their best to bang in their qualifying laps. Although they may have already done it in the 71 car, but I'm not entirely sure.
That is a great story, and of course he's got to do it at night. That's the other thing. So this is all new to them, because this car hasn't run in the night at Le Mans this year.
In fact, Fizzy Keller is actually shown at the wheel of number 71 car right now.
So it's not him.
It's not him in this car, no.
Jeremy, just watching these night shots, we had a lovely quote from Brian Vickers after last night's racing. He said he cannot believe Le Mans. He said there's no lights around the track. I've got to use these awful headlights, and he said, and I haven't even got a spotter. Oh, and how good is that?
Yeah, right. So this is it's certainly a different world from the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series here at Le Mans.
What is the mindset of a NASCAR nationwide racer when he comes here and suddenly he's on this road course in the middle of France?
He's loving it. He's absolutely loving it. You know, he knows what a great opportunity it is. And Michael Waltrip, for whom Brian Vickers does some driving in the Sprint Cup Series, but only as an occasional driver now. He told him what a good time he had over here. So there was a lot of enthusiasm coming here. A couple of improvements, by the way, just to break away from that. We're on board with the Corvette, but the Peter Dunbrek car, the JRM HPD car, that's made an improvement the last couple of laps and moved off the tail end of the cars in LMP1. 22 car, 11th quickest, 3 minutes 37. So he's clipped, I think, a second or two from that time earlier on.
Yeah, Manu Collard is at the moment at the bottom of that pile, 13th of the 13 runners in that Pescarola 03 car, what was last year's Aston Martin ARM1, a car that Aston Martin would prefer to forget, but it's come back to haunt them both in this chassis and of course in the Delta Wing.
Yeah, and Dominic Kreiheimer also has improved in the Oak chassis, car number 15, also in LMP1. That's improved to 3 minutes 37.307, so just a couple of hundredths of a second between those two cars on the last lap. And that great battle in P2, it's John Martin for ADR Delta that's got a Orica Nissan fastest at the moment, a 338.1, and Matthew LaHaye in the Morgan Judd, by the way, not a Nissan engine, and car number 24 for Oak Racing. The other Oak Racing Morgan, the number 35 car, is running with a Nissan engine, but the 24 car is running with an Orica, with a Judd engine, I should say, and that is second quickest in the class at 3 minutes 38.5. Third fastest in the Signatech Orica Nissan, car number 26, but we saw Nelson Pensutici put that car into the gravel to cause one of the stoppages for that red flag, about a half an hour ago.
I'm going to give a little apology because apparently they're not, this is not the first time Audi's had 4 cars. I thought it was. I had some information to tell me that it was actually, and I should have done my own research.
Car 70 slow after Marshall post 171. 121. Car slow after post 121.
Gianmaria Bruni, the faces are quite smiley now in your team. It took a long time to get the 51 out, but now it's running.
Yes, I mean, the chassis just came this morning, 9 o'clock. The people start to work in the car. It was brand new chassis, and it was without everything. So they rebuilt completely in less than 9 hours the car, and so it's really, really impressive from the AF Corse mechanics. I have to say, it's it's more than a victory in the pole for them. I mean, it's an unbelievable job at the moment. Now Tony's doing an installation lap. He will be here now in a few minutes in the box, and after he will go out again for a few laps. So I'm happy. Then we can start our weekend right now.
40 minutes around are left in the session, so what can you do now?
I mean, basically for qualifying we cannot do anything because we changed the chassis, so the rules is anyway we start last. At least we can do a few laps. He can qualify because he needs to qualify for night practice for the race. And in the same time we will check the car.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Jimmy Bruni there telling us just 9 hours they managed to rebuild that car, but it's something. And as Liz said, straight back into the pits after an installation lap, check for everything, particularly leaks, I should imagine. That's going to be one of the main things. Make sure there's no oil or water leaks.
Oh, absolutely. And just making sure that everything is tight and as it should be, nothing's loose. Oh, we've got a puncture here.
Labra Corvettes. He's had to do half a lap like that. And
is he just coming into pits?
And that's interesting. Do you remember last year we had a lot of punctures here, didn't we? And we've had, that's the first one I can remember seeing this weekend. And we talked about a little bit earlier on here, maybe that Michelin have been a little bit more conservative with their tyres this year than perhaps for the prevailing conditions, which are a little bit cooler perhaps than sometimes, but really not much. But I wonder whether it's because there were so many punctures last year.
Possibly, but we have.
I hadn't really thought about that until
no, you're absolutely right. I hadn't
pits.
either. And then when you said it, I thought, gosh, you're right, because we had loads last year, didn't we? But then it wasn't a very hot year last year.
No.
So, but then now we don't have half as many cars on Michelin as we had last year as well. All of LMP2, I think, is on Dunlop this year, whereas last year we had a big majority of those still on Michelin and various other tires. So I don't know if that's maybe different, but then maybe we've gone both directions now, Jeremy, because now everybody's complaining about getting grip into their tires. They can't seem to get any wear into them, whereas last year we had so many punctures. So maybe we've gone the opposite direction to avoid the problem from last year.
Well, we talked to David Brabham earlier, and Brabs was saying, you know, it's terrible, you know. I'm running 45s and I'm
and he said I'm absolutely terrified, didn't he? He said that. He said I'm terrified.
He said, no, I don't know what Stracker's got that's so good. I went and had a chat with Johnny Kay and he said, I'm doing 40s and I'm terrified.
And for those guys to be terrified, it's got to be scary.
Let's just have a quick look at GT while we're looking at the 51 car, just getting its first service. Dominic Farnbacher in that Farnbacher Ferrari still at the top of the pile. That's not going to change tonight, is it? Adrian Fernandez in the Aston Martin. And Spencer Pumpelly in the AM car. Great performance by him. Of course, he was last year.
Patrick Pilot said that time yesterday.
He set the time, but Spencer is going to be on pole position. That's something coming first.
We've got a car in the gravel. The number 30 car of Roman Iannetta is in the gravel, and they're snatching it. We can see there now. And it looks like it's touched the barrier as well. It's not going to be good news for that team.
No, that's the Status Grand Prix team, and Roma, his uncle raced here in the Rondo, I guess, back in the 80s, the Group C era. So he's here this weekend cheering on his nephew.
And he, in fact, shared a car with me in 2007.
Who did?
Roman Iannetta.
Roman did it, okay.
Yes. In the Noel Del Bello car.
So it's very much a family affair, isn't it? Race director's getting a bit excited tonight. He's everything that's happening, he's letting the whole pits know. Sorry, we sometimes talk over it, but we don't get warning of when that happens. Just
and we do try and tell you if it's something interesting, because we can usually still hear it. Sometimes the race director does repeat the same topic over and over again, which is for the team's benefit, because most of these teams, or all of them, will have a signal for the race director in one of their ears in their headsets. Especially the team manager will always have that. So it's for the benefit of the teams that they repeat it a few different times.
Yeah, we're just talking about families for a moment, weren't we? You mentioned about Roman Iannetta. A lot of family connections. Sebastian Buemi in the Toyota, of course, his cousin is Natasha Gashnang, who raced here last year in the Ford. Jordan Taylor, of course, son of Wayne Taylor. Kazuki Nakajima, son of Satoru. You've got Maxime Martin, the Belgian racing, and his father and uncle. I think we all got that one. Maxime Martin.
So that'll be a slow-moving car of Romagnetti making his way back to the pits. Not entirely sure where that was on the circuit. I didn't see it. Oh, it says he's rejoined.
We saw a car
at
on
point
board here.
42. So,
really?
Right.
Mark, perhaps you can tell us exactly where that is.
42. That's first chicane.
So he's got a long way around to go if he's moving slowly, which it sounds like he is because they've asked him to stay off the racing line. So that's going to potentially wreck some lap times here if someone catches him in a corner. But then at the same time, guys, we're not seeing anybody at the top throwing any crazy times at the moment. We thought we might have seen that, but it's not been.
I reckon it's going to be another 15 or 20 minutes before.
Right at the end, maybe just put in something special at the end.
I do. I think quite a few cars, they've done their job. They're going to get off the racetrack, get out of the way for those last 10, 15 minutes. Yes, that's what I hope, and I hope we have a little bit of a shootout there. I think it'd be a lot of fun for us to watch, and hopefully we can pass along a little bit of that excitement. Meanwhile, Dominic Kreihammer, talked to him a little while ago. He's made another improvement in car number 15 for the Oak Pestarolo chassis. He's now got down into 335.8 for him. So still
gone back ahead of Dunbreck
yes,
again. Yeah,
that's right.
Stuart Hall's back out again in the Pescarolo, although we did actually see Manu Collard being strapped in, didn't we? So maybe just the transponder's been
well, that was quite a while ago we saw him in. So what I think is happening is they've probably put Manuel Collard in the car to get his qualifying laps in, and they've put Stuart back in because he's had no running in this car. Stuart has truly spent no time at all. He was a last-minute addition. So they're probably saying, right, Stuart, you get your laps in, get comfortable, and away you go.
And here's a question. We haven't seen Jean-Christophe Bouillon on the car yet tonight, have we? So
we haven't. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah. So Jan Charouz in that 25 Oreca Nissan, still at top of the pile, leading P2. It's Dominic Farnbacher at the moment in the pole car for GT Pro, and Spencer Pumpelly for Pro-Am. We're going to take a break. Back in a minute for the final half hour. Welcome back to Le Mans, and this is all the fun of the fair tonight here in the last 30 minutes of qualifying. We'll have had 10 hours of practice in qualifying even before we get to the warm-up, and just looking at the pictures, this is the view from our cabin.
It is, in fact. Yeah, we're just looking out there. Hello. Yeah, it's actually quite a sight at night, I have to say, and it's one of those things that you do notice as a driver. I've always noticed the Ferris wheel when you're coming along down towards the Ford chicane. It's not that you turn around and stare at it and go, oh, isn't that lovely? But you do sort of notice it, and it gives you that Le Mans feel. It's not something you sort of find anywhere else in the world, I think, really, at any 24-hour, and it's a special little part of it.
Yeah. Oh, Sebring's pretty special.
Of course it is.
Green Park.
The inside of the track of Sebring is very special indeed.
It's called officially Green Park, but everyone else knows it as the zoo, don't they?
Yes.
We're just seeing the running order there, and that pesky Toyota just spoiling out his 1, 2, 3, 4. Is Ollie Jarvis going to be sent out to try and make it all 2 rows, or do you think, Jeremy, this stage of the night, everyone said, no, that's fine, we're happy, we're all in race trim?
I don't know. I think in this last half an hour we're going to see a few guys going out there and trying to lay down a lap. I think I'd be surprised certainly if the Toyotas didn't do that. Anthony Davidson, I think, is at the wheel of the number 8 car right now. I think he's just gone out fairly recently.
Literally going out as we came back on air. So.
Yeah, okay, fine. And I'm sure, whether it be Alex Wurtz in car number 7 or Nicolas Lapierre, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see, but I'd love it for those guys to go out there and just try and lay down a lap.
Well, we're seeing another report of a car going straight on at one of the chicanes, and that's the number 12 car. We've just seen endless amounts of cars going off, more so than I normally remember seeing at this stage. And it looks like we're going to get an interview with Giancarlo Fisichella, who did crash that 51 car last night. The car is back out and running. It is amazing, and we're very much looking forward to hearing what he has to say, Mark.
Yeah. Has he got his spaghetti apron on?
Wow. Well, I'm sure they'll manage to forgive him somehow. They'll have to, and he's going to have to pull it through for the team now. These things happen sometimes in racing. It's why there's that phrase, that's racing.
Great on-board shots then riding on the 74 Corvette as we go and see Fisichella.
Giancarlo Fisichella just climbed out of the car number 71. I think you did your 5 laps in the night.
Yeah, actually 6, which is enough to qualify ourselves for the race. Unfortunately, yesterday I had a bad accident. It was not a big impact, but the impact was exactly on the rear wheels, and unfortunately the chassis was broken. This morning came another chassis from Piacenza. The mechanics did such a fantastic, great job. They built the car ready to get out 20 minutes ago. We expect to be like that for the warm-up of tomorrow. Incredible. Thank you to all of them. I qualified with the other cars just to be sure. We got the pace even to start from the last position to do well. So I'm really confident, comfortable.
When did you hear about the news that the 51 was back on track? Did they tell you over the radio?
Yeah, I knew about around 10:30. But to be sure, I jumped on the car number 71. So everything is going well now. Everybody are more relaxed. Just be concentrate very well for the race. I'm sure the result it's possible to do.
We see that it's more relaxed in the team now.
Absolutely. The mechanics are tired, unfortunately, but again, they did a fantastic job. I thanks thousand times all of them.
Thank you very much.
That was a big call today, wasn't it? Getting that car ready again. Remember, Giancarlo and this car the team were second in GT Pro last year, got beaten by the Corvette. This year they'd love to come back and do it. They're not in a bad position now. They've got a completely brand new car. Everything's ready for the race, Jeremy, and raring to go on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and to prove a point too, you're absolutely right. I mean, two of those drivers, like we said, have crashed that car within the past 2 weeks. So Tony Wieland is the only one who hasn't. But it's going to be a strong car. We know the Ferrari is a strong car. We know they're three great drivers. We know it's a great team. So absolutely, they will be in contention.
I think the team orders now are going to be, look after that car. Do not wreck it. Get your laps in. Do a decent time, but don't worry too much about where you qualify. It's 24 hours. We're back up and running.
This car hasn't been out for a while, and look at it. They've just rushed it out the garage. It looks like they've got some
Stuck some tyres on it.
And they sent McNish out. He was in it. I don't know. Let's wait to see if the transponder tells us it's going to be Alan or Tom.
No, that's number... Yeah. I'm not sure. I think it must be McNish. That's what it says on our screen.
Too much light from the garage. Couldn't quite see the headlights. They're still showing McNish on the transponder. So little Al's been given his chance.
I think they've said, right, boy, go out there and have a go, which I wasn't sure they were going to do. Jeremy was convinced.
Well, yeah, it wasn't. I bet it wasn't the case of them saying, "Okay, Alan, you go for it." I'm sure it's a case of Alan saying, "Hey, I'm going." I want to. It was up to them to stop him, I think.
You're absolutely right.
This is his warm-up lap. You're not going to miss anything. We're going for a quick break, and when we come back, hopefully we'll be riding with Alan McNish. You're back with Eurosport. No more breaks now to the end of qualifying. 22 minutes and 10 seconds still remaining. Alan McNish has just gone out. We think strapped some new tyres on. Loic Duval also is gone out, and we are waiting to see if we're going to have fireworks just before midnight. Jeremy.
Would be fun, wouldn't it, Alex? Anthony Davidson just under 3 minutes 26.3, so within a couple of tenths of the fastest car set by the car number 8 so far. It stands fourth overall, and that was his first flying lap on this set of tyres, a 3:26.3. So still, 21 minutes to go in this session. There's a lot fewer cars on the track at this stage in the evening than there were last night. Let's see what you can do, Anthony.
Well, it's quite a clear track, actually. If you look at it, there's a lot of cars that have parked it up and said, that's as good as we're going to do. Let's just look after the cars now. Keeping in mind, a lot of these teams have put the race engine in the car already. So the last thing they're going to want to do is run the life out of them for 2 extra hours. They're not trying to complete a 26-hour race. So they'll probably get all their qualifying in, say, this is the best we can do, and let's look after it.
We're just looking for Alan McNish. The camera's trying to pick him up. There he is in the number 2 cars in the first sector. That's not him, it's the one behind, wasn't it? In the first sector of this, so we're going to try and follow that lap. Looking actually at the Morgan Judd at the moment. Olivier Pla on board still. He is second in P2. He wants to knock the Eureka Nissan of Jean Charouz off that pole top for P2.
That's right, it was John Martin who set the time in that car earlier on, but Jean Charouz, he's a test driver for the Lotus team in Formula One, been around the sport a long time. He's had some good results here at Le Mans, a lot of experience. As we see Marc Genet there in the Audi pit. He is standing in for Timo Bernhard, who's still not fully recovered from that accident he had in testing at Sebring back in March.
Yeah, big accident there, and not really the right race to come back into action and to go straight into a 24-hour race, one of the hardest races in the world. So I think they've probably made the right decision there, and I know Timo wouldn't want to be back in action unless he could be absolutely 110% of what he's able to be.
So Alan McNish, nothing spectacular in that first sector, but as Jeremy said, and Liz confirmed, not much traffic. We've got most of the field in the garages at the moment, so should have a fairly clear track. But knowing Murphy's Law, you'll arrive where you've got a bunch of GTs in front of you at Mulsanne or something.
Yeah, this is the reality of sports car racing. Is no matter how clear the track can be, if you catch a GT car, and you're in a prototype at the wrong time, there's nothing you can do really about it. And I suppose that's part of what makes sports car racing so exciting. Is you do have the 4 classes of racing all at once. You've always got something to look at and some passing to go on. But in a qualifying scenario, it can make it even trickier.
Greaves Motorsport in the garage without Tom Kimber-Smith. This is, we've already mentioned.
And it looks like we're going to be able to take you to an interview with the amazing Andre Lotterer, who's been putting down such phenomenal times in this car. Let's go and hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I'm down here with Andre Lotterer, the man who set this blistering time of 3:23.787. How confident are you that this time will last on the top of the timing screen?
I don't know how much time is left. 18 minutes. I mean, you know, you never know. Somebody can go out and put a good lap time. From our cars are already competitive. My time was good. I had a clear lap. It was not my all sector's best, so it could have been a little bit better. But this is Le Mans, you know. You also got to get yourself into a rhythm. You cannot just go out there and bang in time. You build up your own speed. It's so fast, everything here, that you get faster and faster without even realizing it. So, but I did my part, or we did our part. It's great if it stays like that, but it's not a drama if it doesn't.
But are you prepared, or is Marcel prepared to give a counter-attack if there's another car passing you, or is it now set and you're just running your program?
No, basically, you know, we have one go, and it's, of course, it's qualifying. You take your chance, but this is it. We're not playing like qualifying at each outing. The focus is to try to understand the best way how to use all the tires we have. At the night it's cooler, so you know it's a different working window for certain tires, and we have to optimize this, and this is what Marcel is trying now. And still we're trying on improving the car setup bit by bit. We're still in a learning curve with everything, with our hybrid system. So yeah, we have our priorities, and this is part of Le Mans.
Thank you very much.
So last year's winners, and at the moment sitting on provisional pole position with just 17 minutes to go. Loic Duval in the number 3 Audi out on track in second place. Alan McNish in the number 2 Audi in third place. And of course the big difference between the 1, 3 and the 2 is that 2 of them are hybrids and 1 is not.
Well, I think listening to Andre Lotterer there, he summed up the reality of 24-hour racing and the absolute right attitude for everything. I think what they've probably done in that car is said, right, you've got one shot to put a hybrid car on pole, which is, I'm sure, what everybody would have wanted in the Audi camp. And then he said, after that, we're just going to rein it in, and that's our one shot, and we're going to look after this car and do the work we need to do to be prepared for the 24-hour, because that really is the ultimate package, is getting the 24-hour race under control. Qualifying is great, but if you don't have your tires set up and you don't have everything under control for the race, then none of it matters.
Oh, look at this. Some nice new tyres for Anthony Davidson.
Yeah, both cars are in the pits at the moment, actually. Alex Burtz came in just a few moments ago. You see the 2 Toyotas there. Alex Burtz came in the car number 8, which is in front there. Kazuki Nakajima has just got aboard this car. They are, as you can see, putting on a... we can't see that it's a brand new set, but I'm pretty sure they are a brand new set. It is a brand new set.
It will be.
Yeah,
it is, definitely.
Yeah, like I say, he was pretty confident he could get more time out of that car. He did I think he did a 3:26. I think he did that 3:26.5 in that car number 7 earlier in the first session today. And I talked to him afterwards. He said, you know, that we were definitely held up in several places. We think we're still making the car better. So he thinks he can find maybe another second or so, perhaps more than that. It would be cool to see that. But, you know, it's good to see at least the Toyotas out there now. They've got 10 minutes. We're in the almost inside the final 15 minutes, just over 15 minutes to go. So they've got probably time to do a couple of runs if they want to.
Oh yes, definitely, and you know, now is the best time for them to do it. It's so much quieter on the track than it was earlier. There's not, that I can see, any huge amounts of debris or gravel anywhere. Now is the best shot they're going to have to put a time in if they can.
Alan McNish on board with him. Talk us through this, Liz.
Well, you can just see how dark it is at Le Mans coming along through here, and how spectacular those lights are. We've seen quite a few onboard shots now with different cars, and you can see the way they just go straight together and give him a really, really bright spot right in the middle of the car, and they then turn along with him. It's amazing. They're so much brighter than all the other cars we've seen. It's actually spectacular. And also the closing speed. We can see him entering the Porsche curves, it looks like, just catching that car so fast.
Yeah, but I was talking to Martin. Interesting. I was talking to Martin Brundle about that this morning. He's driving a P2 car, and he reckons that most of the P2 cars are as quick as the big P1 cars through the Porsche curves. It's a much lighter car. It's very nimble. I mean, any time for acceleration, of course, then the LP1 cars eat them for dead. But once they've turned into the corner, actually carrying speed through the corners, the P2 cars are pretty quick. But they do make up a lot of ground, particularly on the GT cars, and the lesser abled drivers in the P2 cars through the Porsche curves, let's say.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I agree with that, if I'm really honest. I think they are faster. They probably can't get round them safely at that sort of speed in the Porsche curves, because it's a part of the track that you absolutely have to be in the right place if you're going to be able to go flat out. And probably what's happening is they're in there in the Porsche curves with him, not able to do the sort of speed they would, because I've been passed on the entry to Porsche curves by, like, the really fast MP ones, and they are crazy
once you
fast.
get into the series of turns there, Martin said he's had cars go past him. He was telling me this,
and he stayed up with them,
and he stayed with them through the curves. Yeah, as soon as he come out of them, he's gone. But but certainly, those P2 cars are pretty nimble.
Well, you can just see Stefan Saracen there. He had such a big accident off his road bike. I understand he was going down the hill in training only just about a week before, or a couple days before the test weekend, and fell going downhill, landed squarely on his face. 30 stitches he had in his face, and what an amazing recovery he's made.
Yeah, you can see the mess of his face there. I saw him earlier on today. I thought, yikes.
Yeah, not
really
so
nasty.
good. And talking about the number 42 car, we've had quite a few people asking how the Alex and Martin Brundle team is getting on, and they're doing just fine. I think they've been in the pits for a while. I think they've settled in with what they have. All three drivers very happy with what they've done, and all three of them have been very, very impressive and very professional, as you would expect.
And totally concentrating on the race. That's, Martin Brundle, he knows what it takes to do well here. He's won this race before for the Jaguar team, so he's back in this car. He's taking it very, very seriously. They decided about a year ago, the father and son, they were going to do this race, and since then Martin has been on a strict training regimen, as has Alex. And I hadn't seen Martin for a little while, and when I saw him just today, actually, I thought, well done, you've done a good job, because he put on a few pounds, but he looks very, very fit. He's taking it very, very seriously, and they are focusing absolutely entirely on the race. They're not looking at the lap times at all. All they're concentrating on is the consistency of the car and the consistency of their driving, is exactly as you say, and that car is going to be a factor in the race.
Oh, absolutely, and certainly in LMP2. I don't think it's that important where you put the car for the start of this race, because it's going to come down to who is reliable and consistent. And if they do consistent lap times and stay out of the pits, and other than the times they need to be, they really are going to be a contender for the win. And they're just so concentrated on this race. I got the same vibe from them when I spoke to them today. Absolutely in the right headspace.
There's a blue-purple, a blue sector 1 there for Kazuki Nakajima in car number 7. That's a best personal sector time, 32.2. That's only 0.3 of a second off what the Andre Lotterer did, I think, when he set that provisional pole time in the car number 1 Audi. And we know that the Toyota is very quick on the straights, so we're going to have to wait now for another 80 seconds or so to see what Kazuki can put together in that car number 7. But we saw them put fresh tyres on that car, and Anthony Davidson, I think, has a fresh set of Michelin boots also on the number 8 Toyota. Let's see it, boys. What you got?
Alan McNish coming into the pits. Just wonder if he's going to improve, but no, he's coming to the pits, so Are they going to? They've been called in, of course, for the spot check scrutineering, and will Audi put another set of tyres on and make the most of the last 10 minutes? Who knows?
They don't really need to.
No,
it would be
you're
exciting for us,
right.
but they truly do not need to.
Would exciting for Alan, of course.
Oh
as
no,
well,
yeah,
but,
of course. Yes, Alan loves, more than anything, to put in a qualifying lap in one of these
we
cars.
also noticed both Corvettes went out. They're back in now. Maybe just scrubbing in tyres. Maybe no more than that.
And it looks like we're about to have a driver change in one of the Toyota cars. We can just see in the corner of our screen there, one of the drivers waiting. I'm not entirely sure who that is.
Well, we've got Nakajima on board one and Davidson on board the other. So there's just 1 point, of course. We're talking about 10 minutes left, but Saturday morning, 30 minutes of warm-up. There's still time to do things then, aren't there?
Oh, honestly, morning warm-up is all about getting either all three drivers or just the nominated ones. Sometimes they don't, just getting them settled in and just relaxed into the car and ready to go.
Purple in sector 2 for Anthony Davidson in car number 8. He did a 32.4 through sector number 1. That's about a half a second off what the pole lap was. He's got purple, 79.3. That is a blinding lap. I made a note earlier on.
That's crazy
when Lotra said his time, he did an 81.2 in sector 2. This is almost 2 seconds faster. Love it! Great! Exactly what we want. And Kazuki Nakajima, he did an 80.3 in that sector 2. Nakajima's ahead of the two of them on the road. We've got about another minute or so to wait until they come around.
Watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just see what the next sector time's going to be. Let's hope that it's another fastest.
Here he comes, following him just out to the Porsche curves, down towards the Ford chicanes. Watch that clock. 3:23 is the benchmark. He's not going to beat that. No, but he's beaten his own time. And,
he's gone into
moves
third.
Up into third. Yeah, that's bumped Christensen down to fourth, who's now on board that McNish car. Now the number 8 car of Davidson going off for another lap, I guess.
Yeah, great stuff. Good to see. So we've now got Audi, Toyota, and then Audi. Let's go on the pit lane one more time. Sorry, I thought we were going to an interview there.
Tom Christensen has actually gotten into the number 2 car, so I think they're just getting their drivers through there and possibly doing a bit of work now, getting ready for the race, I think.
Now we have the angst shots. We've got the lineup of the Toyota guys, now the lineup of the Audi guys, and they're watching each other, a bit like the closing minutes of a Formula 1 qualifying session. But this is for real, this is proper racing, of course. And Marcel Fassler out on track at the moment. He's not going to do anything more. He's fairly safe, I think. 3:23. Even Toyota aren't going to be able to pull anything like that out of the bag, as good as Anthony Davidson is. He's 1.0 seconds off the pole. That is pretty cool, isn't it?
Well, there is still about 8 minutes left, 7.5 in fact left of this session. That is more than enough time to throw down a few more good laps.
Yeah, or even come into the pits, make take on one more set, and I think get around in time to take.
And he and Nakajima both doing a 32.2 and a 32.1 in the first sector. That's still pretty quick.
It is, and we know how fast the Toyotas are on the straights. So, maybe there's a little bit more to come in these. That's the last time around for those two. It was a 32.4 for Anthony Davidson. It was a 32.2 this time. For Nakajima, last time was a 32.2. This time a 32.1 through that first sector. So both just a little bit faster. Sector 2, they're running almost together on the road, those two, aren't they? They're very, very close. Both in the 79s again through sector 2, so very, very quick. How can they put it together?
Got a running clock here on the Audi R18 Ultra number 4.
Oliver Jarvis.
He's about to come through the last chicanes and onto the straight. Let's see what he can do. It's not now. He's just going a bit quieter, I think.
Yeah, 3:26 was his previous best.
Yeah, I don't think they were actually trying to do anything there, really.
Oliver Jarvis, his second Le Mans. First 2 years ago, he was here with Collis. Car retired, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the Delta Wing, which is out on track, but not showing who's on board.
Yeah, it's claiming it was Michael Crum earlier, but I'm guessing they've probably put a different member of the team in the car now.
So, any more changes?
Big slide from there for somebody in the Porsche, in the Ford chicane. Didn't actually see who it was, but it was a huge slide coming through the exit of the Ford chicane.
And I think what we've seen a lot of this year is all the different teams struggling to get grip from those tires, as they're now really struggling in the Ford chicane. We've seen so many cars sliding around there. We've seen Sam Hancock go off, and he nearly had gone off a couple laps before. We've seen the Toyotas getting loose there. We've seen loads of cars really skitching around these slippery corners.
Oh. And the number 7 car comes across the line. Kazuki Nakajima's a 329. I think they both had to pass one of the Audis coming through the Porsche curves. That's a shame. I think it was the number 2 car of Tom Christensen, who was going pretty slowly, and
maybe he's doing it on purpose.
Well, I certainly hope not.
Oh dear, I'm in the way.
There's no doubt that he held up. I think it was the second car. I think it was Anthony Davidson as he came through there, the Ford chicane, going onto that lap. So that'll have messed up both the previous lap and the next one as well.
So you're suggesting that Tom was sent out as a spoiler?
Yeah,
well,
I'm certainly hoping not, that's for sure. But it's great to see that the Toyotas, there they are, both together, running very, very quickly. And there is Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich looking on there in the Toyota camp was...
it's Nakajima
Shonak along with,
Nakajima-san's running order they're showing. So here's a repeat of what we saw. This is Christensen coming to the chicane and not being terribly quick about leaving it.
No.
Interesting. I'm not sure. I'm going to just keep my mouth shut on that one for now, I think.
Well, they've stayed out there. They're going to do one more lap now. They've got about another, couple of minutes to go on this lap. So I don't think they haven't got time now.
Yeah, this is Arnage.
To come into the pits and make another change of tyres.
No, but as you say, they can get another lap in easily.
Yeah, they could get another lap in. I think you're right. I think they'd struggle to do a tyre change. But then I wouldn't expect them to do another one. At this time of night, I don't think they'd come in and put another set on when they've just put some on. It would seem a bit pointless for the sake of it, I think.
Because it would be an out lap. So
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they could have come in the last lap and had time to do one more change, but now they're committed to what they've got, and so it becomes a factor. How resilient are these Michelin tyres? Generally speaking, the tyres are really good, aren't they, Liz, for laps 2 or 3 or 4, depending on where. How quickly they get the tyres up to temperature, and then they just lose that ultimate edge.
Well, it is a bit cooler right now, and also at Le Mans you don't get as much tyre wear all the time, because we do have the long straights, gives them a little bit of a chance to cool off. So I would have thought, since they only just put them on a little while ago, I wouldn't expect them to change again, but if they'd had more time, they may have.
So personal best for Luc Duval, I think, in the number 3 Audi. Who set that time originally, the 324?
Lloyd Duval.
It was. So why this will be in this session then? Best in this session, yep. Right, let's go down. We've got another interview coming up with just 2.5 minutes left.
Alan McNish, you just got out of the car. Tom is in. Is he attacking the pole now?
No. We're just doing the last bit of race setup at the moment. Basically, we had one run at 10 o'clock, and that was it. To be honest, for us, with the way that yesterday was, I think for everybody, we decided that we were going to try and concentrate on getting a good race balance and a consistent balance. And we had a little bit of tyre program to do as well.
And how is that going for you? How happy are you with the setup of the car for the race?
Basically pretty good, quite consistent. I think the circuit's a lot better today, but also from our point of view, it's worked quite nicely. We've got another day and a half before the start of the race, though.
Okay, thank you very much.
DailySportsCar.com saying traffic cost both of the Toyotas time there. They got stuck behind the 2 Audi on purpose, question mark.
Yeah, quite.
Well, thank you, DailySportsCar.com, by the way, all the help you're giving us. And
that's what we were talking about there. And but here come the Toyotas now through the it's one of them anyhow. Where's the other one? Was that one of them?
Don't know. I wasn't. This is the trouble with our commentary position. Unless you're sitting up really tall, you can't see the actual circuit itself. I'm afraid I was looking at the screen at that immediate point in time.
Certainly can't see the pits, which is.
I personally, I don't think we're going to see any magic between now and the end. We've got 1 minute and 3 seconds remaining. So unless we see a fastest sector time very, very soon here, we're not going to see anything special. But still, we've got a Toyota on the second row of the grid.
And the top 5 cars, which include that Toyota, covered by 1.7 seconds, which over a 13.5 kilometre circuit is
sensational. I think, considering how short the gestation period has been on that Toyota. Absolutely fantastic job by that entire organisation. It's the collaboration between Germany, Japan and France, with TMG from Cologne, from the Toyota Motor Corporation in Japan, and the Oracle organisation, I should say, who's the Shonak from France here, but they provided most of the engineering for the race team, and they've organised it very, very nicely indeed. They've done 4 or 5 very quick laps here. They've shown the pace of that car. It is fast. They've got the fastest sector times in the middle part of this track, Mark, and that is my hat is off to those guys. Tremendous effort. We don't know. I think the car isn't quite as quick through the final sector as the Audis. There was some traffic.
That's the session. No more track action until the race day now.
Yeah, and Anthony Davis is still another quick lap here. We'll have to see as he comes into the final couple of corners whether he has a clear run, because again he's in the 79s through the sector 2, which is very, very fast.
I don't know, we'll have to wait and see, but I think what we're going to see is Toyota making a bid to lead this race for a little bit of the time, and Audi staying very, very cool. I don't think they're going to go mad at the start of the race. I think they're going to be cool. That's what I think will happen this year, because they will know, as well as we all do, that most likely, if they can keep all 4 cars together and consistent, then all 4 of them could very likely finish at the top. And that is exactly what Dr. Ulrich would love to see.
Remember, Audi's been coming here for 14 years now. This is all new for this particular Toyota lineup. German chassis, Japanese engine, French team. They've got to bring everything together, and what a job they've done tonight, as Jeremy says.
Absolutely.
Jubilation there at Luxury Racing.
Yeah, what an amazing pole position for them, and we've not seen that change for ages now. That the top 3 there in GT Pro. It's Ferrari, Aston and Corvette. What a nice mixture.
Here come the Toyotas through the Ford chicane for the final lap of their qualifying run. They're going to come up to the line, Mark.
Yep, and
92.7, a personal best, and an improvement there for Anthony Davidson.
24.8 is done.
Not quite enough.
Great effort, absolutely fantastic. A 26.5 for Kazuki Nakajima, 24.8 for Anthony Davidson.
Which means 1 second covering the top 3 cars. That is so close. 2 Audis and a Toyota.
Yeah, 1.7 over the Traverse 5. That's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great stuff. That was fun.
Just to remind you, P2 pole goes to the 25 Oreca Nissan, which Jan Schares has been on board for the last half hour or so. That's the car that was put on pole, I believe, by John Martin. It was John Martin, wasn't it, the Australian? And Tor Graves, the Thai driver, he's the 3rd driver there, British based. And down your end, Liz, yes, Dominic Farnbacher in the 59 luxury car. That was put on pole by Fred Macavicki. And Spencer Pompelli, got the name right this time.
It was Patrick Pilet that put that on that car on pole.
Patrick Pilet.
And that was yesterday. Early on yesterday, they put that car on pole, and nobody's been able to touch it.
No, and it remains the fastest of all of the Porsches.
Thank you for today, and see you back on Saturday. Race control will stay around for a few minutes more, but then it will go off.
So race director having his last words of the evening. I presume they're still waiting to see Seiji Ara, who was summoned to them some time ago, if they can find him. In comes the number 1 car, our pole position car.
Was an improvement for Peter Dumbreck on the last lap as well for JRM in the HBD chassis, 335.4, so a little bit of bragging rights. He gets back ahead of Dominic Kreiheimer in the Oak Pescarola, so a bit of bragging rights there, and he moves up to 11th place overall.
So Dr. Ulrich very pleased with their 2 days of work, well, 3 days of course, including the test day, to get to this point. And hopefully Seb, our own Seb, not Sebastian Buemi, will be catching up with him to get the word on all that. Of course, Marc Duval,
well, I think
Fassler, Andre Lotter, all the centre of media attention at the moment.
the big deal right now is it is a hybrid car on pole for the first time ever at Le Mans. Well, I think it's the first time ever, this sort of hybrid anyway.
Dr. Ulrich, the first row is an Audi row, and the first position, the pole position, the e-tron. Everything went according to plan?
I have to say we could work today without any problems. We've been running through our program, and all cars did just one try to go really for a fast lap. It's fine that at the end it's like this, and that e-tron Quattro is a little bit ahead as we thought it would be. But I also have to say that the lap of Loic Duval was a really good one with the Ultra. So all the team did a great job. The guys from Toyota were pushing hard at the very end. We knew that they are strong. We are close together, so it's a good start to the race.
What do you expect for the race from your opponents from Toyota? They're trailing you with 1 second in qualifying, but what do you expect from them in the race?
I mean, I think we've been working very concentrated for the race, and I think we should have good race cars, and that's important.
Okay, thank you very much.
So Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, as we said, good work done tonight. And there is Andre Lotterer, again, the man of the weekend. I mean, he's just been so fast all weekend. Fastest in practice yesterday, fastest last night. Didn't quite make it fastest in the first part of tonight's qualifying, but he's come back with a vengeance at the end, and mightily impressive.
Yeah, just that final sector, not quite the quickest. I think it's just in that final sector that the Toyotas lost perhaps any opportunities to go for the pole, but as I say, look at that, there are other final times to get within a tad over 1 second. Very, very impressive, and that's a good looking car that Toyota's put together, and boy, it is fast.
And I don't think we'll quite be seeing those sort of lap times in the actual race. I think like I've said, I think we're going to see a very cool and collected Audi performance this year. Not that we never do, because we always do, but I don't think we're going to see quite the thrash we've had at the beginning of the race when there's been Peugeot to contend with.
Yeah, Jeremy just pointing out to us the 29th place is the Zero Delta Wing at Nissan. Great performance by them. They wanted to be in the top 20, but didn't quite make it. Anyway, we will be back on Saturday morning, warm up at 8 o'clock British time, 9 o'clock Central European time, followed by the Group C race. And so just to let you know that the 24 minutes of Le Mans coming up tomorrow, Friday, make sure you catch that. And then Saturday morning, we are live in the morning with the warm-up, then the Group C race. There it is, catch that, 22:15 Central European time, 21:15 UK time. And Jeremy Shaw, Liz Halliday, Carlton Kirby, myself, Mark Coe. What a great evening we've had. Yeah, they're absolutely lost for things. Look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for being with us on Eurosport. Catch you soon.